Hopefully you've seen my other videos about the multiple kit analysis tool, and today I'm going to show you more about how to use lists and CSV files from the multiple kit analysis. Howdy, I'm Andy Lee with Family History Fanatics, where we help you understand your DNA, climb your family tree, and write your ancestors' story along the way. In this series about the multiple kit analysis, I've shown you how to use different tools on the platform. Today, I'm going to show you the tool of how you can get some of that data off of the platform, and that is under the list/CSV function. With the multiple kit analysis tool, you need to start by selecting several kits. I'm going to use my tag groups and I'm going to select one of those to make my selection. On the visualization options, the one we want today is the list/CSV. So click on that to get to the 4 tools we'll go over. For this, there are 4 tools that you can use in order to get a list or a CSV file of that information that you can do some more analysis offline. Let's look at the very first one, which is the kit number list. And what it says is that this file contains the kit numbers only. It doesn't contain any matched data. This is a really simplified list. You can see from this that it has created this file, and it is telling us that we can just click right there to download this file. Opening this file gives you a list that opens a notepad, and all it is just a list of the numbers. Now, I've actually already anonymized all these numbers, so these are not real kit numbers, but this is what that is simply a list of the kit numbers. The next tool on this is the match list. Now, what this contains is it contains the total match data for the selected kit numbers, and I'll show you what that looks like. But there's 2 options that you can actually change stuff on. One is you can change the CM value. Now, I usually keep it at 7 centimorgans. However, if you have something like an endogamous population that you're looking at, then you might want to increase that to 15 or 20 centimorgans. Also, I always click on the prevent hard breaks. This is so that some segments are not broken up into multiple segments when just there's not very much data in between those two. It just merges those together. And I've rarely come across any instance where you want to have hard breaks, and so I always prevent hard breaks. And this is going to generate this file rather quickly. If you have a whole lot of matches on here, then it may take a little while, but in most cases it'll just be a couple of seconds. And you click on here and it will download a CSV file. Now, a CSV file is a comma separated file that you're usually going to open up in a spreadsheet. So I've downloaded and opened up this file in a spreadsheet. And what I've already done is I've already highlighted and blanked out all of the information. Basically, what you can see here is that these first columns are about the kit numbers, the name of that kit, the email for that person, the matched kit, the matched name, and the matched email. And then it's going to have that matched data. How much the largest segment is, how much total centimorgans is matching, how many generations distant, what the largest X segment, largest X segment centimorgans, or the total X segment centimorgans, the amount of overlap, and the date that it was created, as well as the testing company. And this is going to be for each one of those matches on that kit. So this file takes the very first kit in that list, which is the primary kit. And if you want to look at the videos that I made about the multiple kit analysis and tag groups, you can figure out how to make a primary person. And then it's going to compare them to everybody else. So this file had 41 people in it. And so it is taking the first person and comparing it to the other 40. So each one of these lines represents that first person compared to this other 40 of those kits. So that is the match list. And this can be used in lots of different ways, but it's just some basic data. The next one on here is the matched segment list. Now this is going to have a lot more information. It's similar to the match list in that we have a primary kit that is being compared to all of the other kits, but instead of the total matching segment data, it's going to show individual segments. So when you match 6 segments with somebody, you're going to have 6 different lines, 1 line for each one of those segments all the way through. Again, we can change the total centimorgan value. So if we want to do something more than 7 centimorgans, let's say we want to just look at segments that are 10 centimorgans, and we want to prevent hard breaks. You'll notice that this screen looks very similar to the other screen. It has created the file, and you just click on here to download that comma-separated file. Again, you're going to be using a spreadsheet to look at this. I've opened up this file. Now again, this is different because this is not a single line for each match, but it's a single line for each segment. So as you can see here, some of the column titles are the same. We got the primary kit and the primary name. We have the primary email. Then we have the matched kit. And then we have the first column that's different, and that is the chromosome column. That's because each of these segments are on a specific chromosome. It tells us the start and the end location of that segment, the amount of centimorgans for that segment. It tells us the number of SNPs that were part of that segment. Then there is the matched name, the matched email, the date that it was created. And you also have the total centimorgans. Now this is the same total centimorgans that we would have seen in the others. So for instance, what we can see here is we can see actually right here, these 2 segments are from the same person. And we know that from looking at the names and the emails, but also the total centimorgans for that person is the same. Here is another 2 that are from the same person that's sharing 165 centimorgans. This report also gives you your Y haplogroup and the mitochondrial haplogroup if they were reported by that other person. So there's a lot of good data in this, and I've used these segments a lot in order to do some different kinds of analysis outside of the tools that you can already do on GEDmatch. For this report, I used a tag group that had 41 people. Now this is with each segment, so it doesn't have 41 lines. This one has 127 lines of information. So there's 127 segments between these 40 people that they share with that one primary person. So on average, about 3 segments per person, but in reality, there's a lot of people that only share 1 segment. Going back to the list/CSV tools, there is the last tool, the matrix matched segment list. Now, these 3 may seem a little bit similar, but there's some differences. So the first match list, this was just a list of the total centimorgan information of those matches. The second one was the match segment list. This was each one of the kits compared to the primary kit and the segments that they matched with them. The matrix matched segment list is very similar to number 2, except instead of just comparing all of the other kits to the primary kit, you are comparing all of the kits to all of the other kits. So it's going to have a lot more segment data. You'll notice on this that you cannot prevent hard breaks, but you can change the amount of CM that you're looking at. So I'm going to change that to 10, and we're going to compare that past list, which had 127 segments that it saw, to this new list and how much more information is in this new list. As we click on the button, you'll notice that it is going to take a lot longer in order to figure it out. So you're going to see this plus sign coming across the screen as it's analyzing everything. And once it's done, it's going to give us a link to this file. Once again, we can download that file by just clicking on the link and open that up in a spreadsheet. So I've opened it up, and what we have is we have the kit number 1 versus the name, the email, then kit number 2, the name and the email. And then we're going to have the segment data. Now it doesn't have all of the information that it had on the other, but again, we're now comparing every single person to every single other person. So instead of comparing 1 to 40 other people, we're comparing 41 people to 41 people. So we can see we have the chromosome that tells us which chromosome it's on. We have the start location, the end location, and the centimorgan location. Now, I'm not going to go through all the different things that you can do on this with the spreadsheet because that would be for another video. What I want to show you, though, is how much information is in this file. Remember, before we had 127 lines, and that was 127 segments that this group of people shared with that one person. Here we're now looking at the entire group of people compared to everybody else. Now, many of them, the only relation they have is with that primary person. They don't necessarily have a relationship with the other people in this group. But there's going to be a lot more information. You can see that we're already at line number 300 as far as segments. I'll scroll down all the way to the bottom and we can see how much more information this really is. This is a lot of different segments, and this is, again, just between 40 people. So if you are using groups that are larger, let's say that you have a group that has 90 or 100, then the number of lines could be much, much greater. 10,000 or even 20,000 or more lines, depending on how many people and how closely related they are. In this case, we have 2,043 lines. So that is roughly 16 times the amount of information in this file as there was in the other file, because we're comparing everybody to everybody else. And that is the 4 tools in the list CSV file. These are mainly used to download data that you're then going to use either in some other program, or you're going to use just in a spreadsheet itself to do some other analysis for it. One of the things that you should realize is that a lot of these tools were made before many of the third-party websites were out there. And so the only way to analyze it was by downloading it to your computer and doing that analysis yourself. Many of these third-party websites have tools that have replaced some of that analysis that you can do, but I still find it really valuable to do some of my own analysis and look at things in different ways. In some upcoming videos, I'll show you how I can use spreadsheets and some of these lists in order to extract some information in different ways than what you can use on the tools on GEDmatch. If you have any questions about lists and CSV files, put it in the comments below and I'll try to answer it. And if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel.